Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of ECH Postgame Live. This one comes after the Kraken are shut out 3-0 by the Washington Capitals in a game that probably could have been a whole lot worse if not for Joey Daccord and the excellent game he had. I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty tonight, but the Kraken do lose this one. They do contribute a goal, I think, believe number 875 to Alex Ovechkin's record-chasing goal fund, and I thought it was cool they announced that afterward, Chet Buchanan, the PA announcer, said, Alex Ovechkin scored the goal number 875 of his career rather than the normal, of the season number that they throw out there. So that part was kind of cool, but yeah, not the result the Kraken wanted. Pretty thoroughly outclassed by Washington in this one. But what place does not get outclassed by anybody? That is Queen Anne Beer Hall, the wonderful sponsor for all these post-game lives. And man, I don't know why I'm extra hungry after that game. I think it's because I didn't eat anything at intermission, which I usually do, but I could really go for a chopped cheese at the beer hall right now. That sounds very good, but you got a week left to get their burger of the month, the chopped cheese, and then we'll find out pretty soon what the February burger of the month is. I cannot wait to find out, but thank you to Queen Anne Beer Hall for sponsoring this ECH post game live. So let's jump into chat here, and we've got a couple super chats to get to. First one here from Light. I'll be real, not mad at the loss. The Kraken got beat by a much better team. The Caps had 22 shot blocks. I like the effort, especially by Stevenson. Don't think this is a loss that tells us much. And I will agree with you, Light, on the idea that this is not a loss that tells us a whole lot. I mean, I think it tells us something that we already knew, which is that the Kraken are far, far worse than the Washington Capitals as a team, but the standings already tell us that. The Caps are at the top of the NHL and gaining some distance on the other teams around them too. This is a really good hockey team. They're playing really well. I love everything that they do in the offensive zone. I know Dylan was kind of like trying to figure it out and what their systems were, but I think Dylan and I came away real impressed by the Washington Capitals in this one. And yeah, I mean, the Kraken just got outclassed by a much better team. And I think they're not going to play the Capitals every game, just like they're not going to play the Buffalo Sabres every game. A lot of those games are going to kind of be in the middle somewhere where they're going to have to put in a good effort to win, but they're going to be winnable games. Unlike this one, it felt like, even though Joey Daccord did everything he possibly could. Next super chat here from Schultz. Bylsma's still getting nightmares from Washington Hershey. I know, especially with the Ethan Frank goal, too. That took me back because I remembered he had scored in each of the last two Calder Cup finals against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And 2 years ago on Joey Daccord, actually, I went back and looked at his couple goals that he scored. Yeah, still nightmares from that organization. And yeah, just it brought me back. Also having Dylan McElrath up in the press bridge here too, because he was a healthy scratch for Washington. Of course, he was big in that series as well. So yeah, unfortunately, Biles was still getting the nightmares from the Caps organization. They just seem to have had his number. Super chat here from JTB Hockey. Wish we had a little more grit tonight. Also seen enough of Stevens. Time for someone else to get a shot or give Sprong another shot. # we need goals. As for the grit thing, it did feel like there was a lot of little scuffles, a lot of almost fights that could have happened. John Hayden went at Tom Wilson. That's a notable one. Capo Caco was getting into it with a couple Caps players, and it all just kind of stopped short of a fight. But I think really a lot of the Caps players just didn't want to drop the gloves because, I mean, all the momentum was in their favor. Why would you want to give the Kraken something to hold on to? So I understand why they didn't want to do that. And so it just, makes all the sense why they didn't. And then at that point, you don't really want to instigate a fight because you're taking a penalty. You're putting the Caps power play, in that situation with the extra man, and they are super dangerous. And the Kraken ended up, I don't think, gave him an opportunity at all in this one, which I know makes their numbers even worse for games where they actually don't take a single penalty, which is just a weird stat to me. So as for the grit, like, I don't mind not giving the Capitals a power play. And like, as for, Hayden tried to fight Wilson after that hit, and it was a clean hit, by the way. Like, I don't think Wilson needs to answer for that one, the hit on Mahura, but I don't know. And then as for Mitchell Stevens, like, I don't know who else fills that fourth line center role any better. Ben Myers is really the only other guy that you could call up to perform in that role. And I don't know that he's really any better than Mitchell Stevens. And I don't know that he would provide as much on the PK. So I just don't think until Yanni Gourde comes back, they don't have a whole lot of options there. And then, as for Sprong, like, he's not a center. He doesn't fill that role. Sprong would be coming in for, say, a John Hayden or, I guess a Brandon Tanev, but I just don't see that happening. So, I think Sprong also will have to kind of change his attitude a little bit before getting a call up with this group, just given how things went when he got to Coachella Valley and those comments as well. So I think it could be a while before we see him. I don't know that we'll see him back in a Kraken sweater ever, to be honest. And with the power play thing, Julia says I was kind of hoping for a Caps power play because I wanted to see Ovi in his office. Yeah, me too. I thought it would be kind of cool to see, but at least you do get the Ovechkin empty net goal. That is something he's done a lot of in his career as well. All right, let's go up to the top of chat here. We'll start with B. I know this was a loss, but can we get another massive shout out to Joey Daccord for once again playing amazing and keeping the Kraken in it till the end? Absolutely, we can. I mean, Joey Daccord is the only reason this game wasn't 5-0, 6-0. And I think that's even being generous because the Capitals had 6 breakaways in this game and a 2-on-0. And they only convert on one of those breakaways. And it wasn't even the initial shot. It was the rebound that popped right out to the player too. Joey Daccord did everything he possibly could to keep the Kraken in this game. And unfortunately for them, it just wasn't enough. I don't think there was anything Joey could have done to really win this game for Seattle. But he is fantastic. He's playing Vezina caliber hockey right now. And it's the kind of hockey that against a lot of teams will win the Kraken games they otherwise would not win. So if you're on Team Tank, you don't like to see it, but if you still want some wins here, it's the thing that can benefit the Kraken the absolute most because he's making a massive difference. This game should have been over probably in the first period with the chances the Kraken were giving up, but Joey Daccord, another fantastic game. He's the only reason this game was anywhere near close. Caps probably should have had 6 goals or so tonight. Let's see, Virginia, so it won't be Utah Yetis. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that little bit of news just as the game ended. So I don't know. We'll see if there's any kind of finagling they can do with the patent and trademark office. I don't know if that's like the final verdict, but that will be interesting to track there. And see lots of people with the talk about how awesome Joey is, and he's so special. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and Sean, concerned, that he's going to be a star in someone else's sky if a solid game plan is not put in place by this organization. Well, I mean, the good news is he's under contract for another 5 years after this one, if you want him to stick around. So as long as the Kraken are going for it and trying to win, I don't see them moving him because they do not have anybody else in net right now. George Costanza, hashtag suffer for Schaefer. That would be back on the tank train again if you're feeling that minded. Then oh wow. Okay, so on the ice they've got I wonder if this is some kind of like Scandinavian heritage night thing that they did, because I know in the intermission they had like a couple Swedes versus a couple Finns playing one of the intermission games, and now I see a whole bunch of people in Kraken jerseys and Sweden jerseys and Finland jerseys. Looks like a couple of Norwegians down there as well, and they are like chanting "Go Kraken." I don't know if you can hear this. My mic probably doesn't pick it up, but that is awesome. They are so hyped up. That's really cool. I don't know that I could effectively show you without just like totally messing up the camera and it being blurry on me, but that's pretty cool. Looks like it's some kind of Scandinavian heritage night, which love to see that. That is really cool. And there's more of them. There's like gotta be like 40 people at least down on the ice to take some kind of large photo, which is really cool. So just want to tell you all about that. Let's see. Let's go back into chat here. I got distracted by all the Swedes and Finns and Norwegians, and I don't see anybody in any Denmark apparel yet, but they're still coming out, so that's kind of cool. And then on the other side of the Joey thing, Jason says, trade Joey. We do not put in the effort in front of him to deserve him. I understand that sentiment, and certainly right now, yeah, this team in front of him I think Joey deserves better from the team in front of him, honestly, at this point. But that's unless you're trying to tank like long term and do full rebuild, then you don't trade him. Although I have the Armchair GM stream tomorrow. I want to plug that at 7, so we can look into everything. But yeah, I mean, I do think Joey, at least right now, deserves better than the team in front of him. Let's see. Jenna, what's our record on Linda Cohn nights? I don't know. I wonder if anyone's keeping track of that, but I have no idea. That is a good question though, Jenna. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. Cool. Insert Bugatti and trailer park meme. Yeah, that is Joey Daccord right now on this team. Really is. I mean, he's the only reason. I'm telling you, with average goaltending, the Kraken, in this last 5 game stretch, they're 0-5. They're yeah, what is it? They're 3-2 in reality, but like without him, with even just an average goalie, they're 0-5 in that stretch. So Joey is just doing awesome. I'm running out of words. I don't have much more like even to say about how amazing Joey Daccord is playing right now. And yeah, and then B saying, yeah, no, don't try again. He doesn't want to leave. No, I don't think he minds, all the action he's getting. Goalies, I think, generally do find it fun to see a bunch of shots. Of course, they like winning, but they like action too. So Joey, I think, is certainly plenty happy here. And then and Christian Kraken getting shut out with Joey's amazing play. Boo! Just once, I'd like to see Joey completely rob a game. I mean, I don't know. I think he kind of did rob that Pittsburgh game. The one in Pittsburgh. I think he stole that one. He absolutely stole that game. And there, I mean, even the Sabres game, like the Kraken probably shouldn't have won that if we're being honest here. Given how they played, like I think he has been stealing games for them this season. Like the LA Kings game, actually, the Kings game here, probably the biggest example, right? Where the Kings outshot the Kraken 17-1 in the third period. That is him completely robbing a game. Like any other goalie, I think, and the Kings would have tied that game at the very least. Let's see. Freddie asking, why can't we get a consistent presence in front of the opposing net? Are they afraid of getting hurt? I think it's just something with this group of players. Like they're just not the kinds of players that go to the front of the net. That's not the type of game they play. And it's something that's really even been consistent with them from before going to the Kraken, right? I mean, I don't want to single out Chandler Stevenson. I only am saying just because the Kraken acquired him this season. So it's not like he hasn't been here for a while, but that's somebody that with Vegas, like he's not a net front player, and that's not anything bad about him, right? That's just the kind of player he is. He's a career guy. He's a playmaker. That's what he does. And he does it, has done it well over the course of his career. But the Kraken have just brought in players that aren't net front guys. Like Jaden Schwartz and Kaapo Kakko are the only ones. And so I think that is one of the changes they need to make, is acquire guys who are known to go to the net and do play that way. Super chat here from Chuck. McCann at center on Saturday if Stevenson is out. Also, how did Dubois transform from a running joke into a productive player? A couple really good questions there, Chuck. So we'll start with the center question. So Chandler Stevenson, he blocked a shot with his hand in the second period, came back to the bench, but then he was not out there for the third period tonight. So we'll see if we get an update from Dylan, via Dan Bilesma on that injury. I'm guessing probably not a whole lot of clarity tonight, as these things usually go. But Jared McCann did kind of slot into that role as the 2C. It wouldn't surprise me to see him there on Saturday if Stevenson has to miss time. Again, I don't think the Kraken are ready to throw Shane Wright into that 2C role quite yet. I was maybe hoping to see it a little bit to finish off this game, but we didn't. So it seems like that's the look they want to go with. Of course, they'll have a little time to, kind of formulate things and see exactly what they want to do. But, if I had to bet on it one way or the other, I think that McCann probably has the inside track to play center on that line. And then as for the Dubois thing, I was really impressed by Pierre-Luc Dubois in this game. The effort was absolutely there. Like, he is using his size. He's getting body position. He's back checking. He's really hard on the forecheck. He is stripping pucks off other players. Like, I mean, I think with Dubois, he's always had the talent. There's a reason he's a top 3 pick in the NHL draft. Like, the talent's always been there. The size has always been there. It's just been a matter of effort and putting it all together. And he's just failed time and time again with different teams at doing that. But I think we're seeing what he can do when he actually kind of brings that effort consistently. Also helps that he's on a line with a couple other massive humans in Tom Wilson and Alexi Protas. Dan talked about it this morning, saying that like that's the biggest line in the NHL. And yeah, I mean, Protas, he's what, like 6'6" or something. Tom Wilson is Tom Wilson. And then of course you have Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's pretty darn big himself. And the size, speed, and skill of that line just gave the Kraken fits all night. But really, it's just effort. I think a one-word answer to your question there, Chuck. So thank you for the super chat. I was looking up Shane Wright's ice time. Hey, 1740 though. Okay, that is a new career high for Shane Wright, which I was like, I figured it'd be hard to not have that given that Stevenson was out. But I'm very happy about that, even though we didn't kind of move into the 2C role. But I'm going to take deeper dive and a closer look at his ice time from tonight and do like a shift chart and all that stuff, see how it breaks down by period. I just don't have the time to do it when I'm hosting a show live, but I'm going to do that later tonight because I am really interested to see what the numbers say there. And yeah, as Jamin pointing out, Shane Wright over 17 minutes. Yeah, that is something there. As I just got to that in chat here. Let's see. And then yeah, I'm now. I guess yeah, I just had missed all the Shane Wright ice time conversation in chat there as I see everybody talking about that. If Stevenson sits out, yeah, I think we'll see over 15 for Shane. We saw 17 tonight. Even though, of course, they'll probably have somebody else like McCann move into center. I still think we have to see more ice time for Shane Wright, just given that if Stevenson is out. So, but yeah, it would give Shane Wright an opportunity there, as B is saying. Let's see. The basics asking, can we play the Sabres again? Yeah, that was really nice, wasn't it? Facing the Buffalo Sabres so many times. No, I can't play the Sabres every game. If they did, it'd probably be a playoff team. But yeah, can't play Buffalo again. Julia, honestly, mostly just glad I got to see Ovi's 875th in person, even though it was an empty net against us. Yeah, it's always cool seeing an Alex Ovechkin goal on that chase to the record. It's something you'll kind of remember and take out of this game, given there aren't a whole lot of like great Kraken-based memories that a fan could take out of this one. But it is something really cool to see, and I like that the Kraken were, at least through the PA announcer, were kind of in on it, and kind of celebrated the chase a little bit for the record. Because it is just a cool thing for the NHL. Let's see, AK Joey rocked, but enough of they played a much better team. Kraken players have 2 arms, 2 legs, each holding a stick. They played ho-hum and would have been beat by the lowest tiered team, IMO. I think there is an element of truth in that. I still think they would have beat, like, say, the Buffalo Sabres. Really, I think they brought the game tonight maybe slightly better than what they brought against the Buffalo Sabres in their last game. Just the difference was they're facing the top team in the NHL, whereas last game they were playing one of the worst teams in the NHL, and that's kind of just the difference in result. Really, I think the Kraken have been bringing largely the same effort the last few games. It's just based on kind of their opponent now. Do they win or do they lose? Super chat here from Light. Given he's been hot lately, they could call up Morrison and play him at or even 4C if we want to see a different look. That is interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to look at Logan Morrison's numbers here and how he's done of late, but I'll take your word for it that he's and I'm of course just Googling getting the baseball player. But yeah, if he's been hot lately, maybe give him a shot. That's another option besides Stevens or Ben Myers. I still think that fourth line has played pretty good. Like, I don't have a major problem with it. Like, they know their role. They're going in there. They're playing their role, and they're winning shifts. Like, they've been decent. They're not going to make a huge difference, but in 5 to 7 minutes, nobody is. So I don't think the fourth line is the problem with this team. But I wouldn't mind seeing giving Logan Morrison a look, right, or any of the younger guys, because Mitchell Stevens, he is what he is. He's not going to be on the team next year. He's going to be an AHLer next year. Might as well give some of the young guys a look. Let's see, going up in chat as I see Dylan is walking over and getting ready to set up. So that is good. We'll probably get him around the 20-minute mark or maybe a little bit later, but that's good. We're going to hear from Dylan what everyone had to say about this game. Jenna, Monty just said post-game, the compete wasn't there tonight. Interesting. I don't fully disagree with him, but we'll hear what Dylan can elaborate on that one a little bit. Saima, I feel like we should have played Groot tonight if it was a scheduled loss. Normally I would agree with that, and I kind of generally support that line of thinking a little bit, given where the Kraken are at. But the problem is, if you have not thrown in the towel on this season, if you're still going for it as the Kraken are, despite the realities and everything, there are no scheduled losses anymore. You cannot afford a scheduled loss. You cannot lose a hockey game. You're so far behind. You kind of need to go on a run where you win 10 plus games in a row to even have a shot. So you just can't have a scheduled loss. You have to just do everything you can to try and win every single game, because you kind of need perfection to even get back into this thing. Given the reality of the situation, I kind of agree with that line of thinking. And so Dylan and I were talking about it too. Do you play Grubauer against Edmonton? that is that a scheduled loss? It's the one road game out of the whole thing, and that this next trip, right? This long stretch, and it just I mean, even have Joey make the trip, right? You could rest him. It'd be very important to rest him, and you're going to be playing against Connor McDavid, angry after being suspended. Maybe you think about it if you kind of have that mindset. Let's see. Yeah, people not liking the Caps chest logo. I agree. I don't like it. I think they should go with the Weagle in the middle full time. But of course, I think these jerseys are going to exist as long as Ovechkin is there, just because they're so associated with that era of the Capitals. I think they'll rebrand probably after he retires, and it'll be a welcome one, I think. Let's see. Yeah, it's Nordic Night. Yeah, that's I see people saying. Group of 70 have an on-ice photo for Nordic Night. Yeah, everyone. Okay, that's cool. Thanks for letting me know about that. Yeah, that is really cool. And glad it. Our buddy Pear, who gave me the scarf last game, got to be here for Nordic Night. I wonder if that was a coincidence or if he knew about it. If you're in chat, Pear, let us know. Of course, from Norway, there from Trondheim. Let's see, as I'm scrolling down through chat a little faster here, because I know that Dylan's setting up and getting ready to go. Let's see. Could go Schwartz at center. I mean, I know he can take face-offs. I don't think we've seen that look really like full-time, but I don't want to mess with the Matty line. Still don't want to mess with it. As we have Dylan here joining us. All right, so I'm just waiting for him to give me the thumbs up, but we can see from him kind of what everyone said. So I'm going to skip to the bottom of chat here, by the way, everybody. So if you have something that I did skip over that you want to talk about, just throw it in chat now, and we can kind of get to it after we've talked to Dylan in a little bit and just asked him about how it all was in the room. So just waiting for that thumbs up from Dylan, and we can get going real soon as he kind of adjusts. Make sure to get the lighting right. Looking good there, Dylan. Just let us know. Your hair looks fine. Your hair looks fine. You don't need to mess with the people want to see you. All right. He just gave us the thumbs up. There you are. Hey, how's it go?
Good. I mean, things were quick down there. Again,
I'm sure.
Not gonna lie. Also, not every day that you go to walk out of the media room and Alex Ovechkin walks right by in front of you. Like that's a new one for me. Pretty wild.
What was that? What was that?
It's pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie. Big. He's big dude.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you: is he as solid as he looks on the ice?
He is. Because and what was great was it was Ovechkin and then Everett Fitzhugh, voice of the Kraken on KJR on the radio there, and Everett's big guy too, right?
Yeah,
looked about the same. I was like, wow, that's a couple of big guys walking by there. I feel very small. I'll say that. But yeah, otherwise, look, it was one of those kind of typical quick, scrums with the players, quick scrum with Dan. I do feel like there was some good stuff that was talked about out of all of it. I mean, the number one question of the day was the breakaways that Joey Daccord had to face in this one, right? It's, Dan said it was 3. I think that's a little less than your count up on the press.
It was more than 3.
It was definitely more than 3. Dan said
but
it was
not
3.
Counting the 2-on-0.
Yeah, Dan said it was 3. The exact number is maybe debatable, but a lot of talk about Joey Daccord having to face all of those breakaways. How did they start? Where did they come from? Oliver Bjorkstrand was the first person asked about it. He said, look, it kind of develops quick out there. You'd have to take a look at video and kind of see what it is. Joey was then asked his thoughts on, having to face all those, and then just kind of what goes through his mind and how he kind of deals with those. So I'm just trying to pull up that stuff here with him. But, it was kind of similar to last game, right? Where it was, what goes through your mind on a 2-on-0? Well, he had to face another one in this one, right? And he said it's hard to, it's hard for us to get into their rhythm if they're having to deal with those breakaways and everybody enters that kind of panic mode. It's a good team. And yeah, you just was hoping to get the ball rolling, and they just kind of weren't able to, and the breakaways just kind of compounded that. Yeah, he had some fun stuff to talk about with Ovechkin afterwards, but yeah, he didn't really kind of talk too much about it, about the breakaways. He kind of addressed it a little bit last game. And then with Dan, he just said, some of it was because they were trying to be aggressive, and then that just opened them up to it, right? D takes a step forward in the offensive zone, try to press up, just, things it opens you up, right? Then for things to get going the other way. It said that there was definitely some breakdowns that allowed to get them though, and the execution overall in the offensive zone, just he didn't feel like it was there for the Kraken tonight in this one, and that again compounded and led to those problems.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that broke down. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more. But first, I just want to get to the super chat from Thomas because, I'll just read it. European Tom checking in a couple hours. I'm going to do some tests whether I have tuberculosis, even with losses. Thanks to Kraken and to you guys for keeping my mind off of that. So best of luck with all of that, Thomas. And I mean, glad we could kind of help you keep your mind off of it too. And, be a little bit of a distraction. I'm sure it's stressful there, but, hockey is the best distraction, I think, for anything that you're facing in life. It's just, it's helped a lot of people get through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, that sounds really rough. And definitely fingers crossed. Be thinking about you, Thomas. That sounds rough.
Yeah, so I wanted to get to that right away, of course, and good luck to Thomas, and thank you for the super chat. But as for the players, I'm guessing we didn't get an update on Chandler Stevenson.
No update on Chandler Stevenson. We know
the drill.
Yeah. He talked through the events, right? He came back out in the second period, tried to play through it, wasn't able to play in the third period. That was it. Did you talk about Shane Wright's ice time, RJ?
I did. Yes, I did. New career high for Shane Wright. It felt inevitable once Stevenson went down. Did Dan or anybody have anything to say about that?
Nope. I just happened to take note of it while we were waiting on Dan, and I just, I didn't know if you had time to check on what the number ended up being or anything.
I did. Of course, chat clued me into that, so of course I'm glad they did that. Of course they caught it before I did, so good on them. But yeah, I'm excited to see that. Hopefully, hopefully Stevenson's okay. Hopefully he can play next game. But if he can't, I would like to see more ice time there for Shane Wright. I know that we got the question earlier. I want your take on it as well. If Stevenson does have to miss the next game, you think it's probably McCann as the 2C and then Shane Wright at 3? I mean, kind of like what we saw in this game after Stevenson left.
Yeah, I mean,
would you go with something different? Is that what you would do?
I mean, we did see a little bit of Shane against Crosby last time, so I don't know that it's as set that McCann would necessarily be the 2C. I think maybe this is the opportunity to maybe get Shane a little bit more ice time, maybe play him and Canner about the same, especially at home where you can really kind of line match if you want to. I do think, though, that we'll see Jared McCann. Like, I don't think we're going to see a lineup that's going to be Matty, Shane, and then Mitchell Stevens and like Ben Myers down the middle. Like that, I just don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think they can go that shallow at center. McCann, I think, will play center if Stevenson has to miss time. And I would like to see those lines at least kind of split the ice time. And I think that'll be, if that does come to pass, if Stevenson has to miss the game, that'll be the first big test of, okay, are you ready to ramp things up for Shane Wright, at least in a limited setting? So it'll just be an interesting data point, either way. And then what else was I going to ask you about? So the main topic, of course, was Joey Daccord and how fantastic he's played. I think I ran out of words just talking about how great that he's played and what he's doing for the Kraken. But do you have anything to add about just how great Joey's playing right now?
I mean, look, it's everybody universally that I've talked to agrees that like Joey, keeps this team in games. He's playing out of his mind. He is making up for any deficiencies anywhere on the ice that this team has. Especially on a night like tonight where, yes, the team is unable to execute in the offensive zone. It leads to a bunch of breakaways. Joey Daccord, one of, if not the best goaltender in the league, dealing with those scenarios. So you have that side of things. Then you also have the defensive breakdowns. And Dan talked a little bit about the poor execution in the defensive zone in this one as well. Only in the sense of Joey really stepped up and was able to help cover for those miscues. Nobody really pushed on say what all those miscues were, because quite frankly, I think they were pretty obvious, right? Watching the defensive effort here, there was a lot of guys able to get to the front of the net for the Washington Capitals that just had nobody on them. And they were able to, be there in case there was a rebound chance. It's just Joey Daccord does such a good job of just absorbing those pucks and not allowing those, little rebounds that are going to kind of dribble out in front of him because Washington was there for those tonight. Like they were really there. They had their sticks on the ice. They were prepared for it. They showed you why they're one of the best teams in the National Hockey League tonight, just with that, kind of mindset of jumping towards the crease once a shot has been taken, being in a ready position to try to put it home, knowing how to get a little bit to the backdoor side so maybe they can make a move there if that rebound exists. And Joey Daccord just didn't allow any. And that's something that I just feel like very few NHL goaltenders can do, or at least do on a very consistent basis. And the bottom line is right now we're seeing it each and every night from Joey Daccord. And one of the things that was talked a lot about on Discord earlier today was the kind of team defense, the individual defensive numbers for everybody. It kind of inspired me. I want to dig deeper into the defensive metrics for the D-core for the Kraken. And bottom line is, RJ, right? Just from like looking at things very basic right at the beginning, and we'll talk about this a lot more on probably next week's deep dive. Kraken defense is like fine, or at best, right? Like they're not great, but the bottom line is they're not allowing a ton of goals, and that's just because of Joey Daccord, right? Joey Daccord having the save percentage he has, the goals saved above expected, all of those things behind a defense that, at least by a cursory glance, doesn't look all that solid, tells you how good a season Joey Daccord is having and how he has kept so many of these games close for the Kraken. And it's just another night where, as Oliver Bjorkstrand said, Joey did his job. We just have to score. That's just been, the case with feels like almost every other game this year.
Yeah, he has certainly been doing his job of late. And yeah, I mean, the team just needs to really, it doesn't even require a ton of effort in front of him. If you go by the recent results, he's playing so well. The Kraken scored 2 goals in this game. You at least get a point out of it. And they had their chances to do that, which is incredible, just given the chances they allowed. So I do want to ask you, having to do with the goaltending, because I did bring up your suggestion, your idea about, with the Edmonton game, just asking, okay, well, for that one, Joey's playing so much and he's playing so well. I think we all kind of have the concern. You don't want to break him, right? We're very worried about the workload for him. Do you treat Edmonton as almost a scheduled loss and kind of start Philip Grubauer there and just give Joey the night off for this one weird road game you have, like in between, 9 home games? Do you think about doing that? Jenna says Edmonton's a scheduled loss. What do you think about that one?
I was going to say, yeah, I absolutely do, because you have to play Anaheim at home the very next night. So
that's right. It's a back-to-back. Okay, right, yeah,
it's a back-to-back. Drew's got to start one of those 2 games, right? Drew's got to start one of those 2 games. If you're going to be overworking Joey, I probably give Joey the home starts, and I go ahead and I give Drew that road game. If you are the mindset that you need to be trying to pick up as many points as possible, maybe you do it the other way and you try to maybe give Grubauer the, on paper easier game against the Anaheim Ducks. But the bottom line is, if I'm a coach and I'm looking at that scenario and I need to rely on Joey Daccord showing up each and every night, and I'm potentially worried about overworking him, I'd rather give him the home start of that back-to-back.
I would too, but now that I think about it, they're going to give Daccord the Oilers and Grubauer the Ducks, because they haven't thrown in the towel. They're going to need to try and get every point, which if you're doing that, that's what you have to do. That just makes sense.
And you might not want to give him the start right after a travel day too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but no, you're right. That's what they're going to do. Also, it just prevents the Oilers game from getting potentially embarrassing, which I think they'd also worry about.
Yeah.
But as Brooke mentions, though, really hope we have Karts for the Oilers game, since he and McDavid have some history. I mean, certainly I think if Stevenson's still out, like, Karchi would be the guy coming back in the lineup, and he has gotten under McDavid's skin in the past.
He has.
Especially coming off a suspension. I wonder if McDavid will be playing angry a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to be playing angry. I just don't know that he would engage with anybody on the Kraken, right? Unless
Given
he had to. I don't think he's going to come back from suspension and then be in the mindset where he's going to potentially put himself anywhere close to a situation in which he might find himself out of the lineup again. So, outside of the Kraken really running somebody or running him himself, which is not the identity of this team, and I don't really want it to be the identity of this team. I don't see anything like that happening with McDavid. McDavid's going to be plenty angry, but he's going to try to take it out on the Kraken on the score sheet rather than with his fists or anything like that.
Yes, although I will say I think an opportunistic player could kind of try and push and nudge and shove him just a little bit.
Yeah,
Again, nothing dirty, nothing that crosses the line, but really try and pester him, especially off the puck. I don't think there's
I
anyone on
just
the
can't
Kraken
imagine
that
him
would do
taking
that.
the
But
bait is the problem.
yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it would take the bait. But coming off that suspension, I don't know. You might as well test him, right? Like, how else are you going to beat the Oilers if you can't kind of get into his head there? So I do wonder about that. But it would be nice to have Cartier in the lineup for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. George asking, excited for the Four Nations tournament. Does anyone know how seriously the players take it? Is the game intensity all-star game level, regular season level, or playoffs level? Glad we get to watch Capo. I know you have your opinion on that, Dylan.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to see playoff intensity. I don't know that the players are going to totally show up for it, because the bottom line is, if you're a player that is on a playoff team and your NHL team is going to be in the, going towards the playoffs, something like that, you want to, it's a nice 2 week like gap that you can maybe take it a little bit easier, try to rest up some, and keep your eyes on the bigger prize of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think that we might see that from some players out there. And if you're from an NHL team that is out of it, what's really the incentive for you to get going, right? Like, you might as well, you can enjoy the experience, all that kind of stuff, but
I don't know. I
maybe
feel like
maybe you want
those
to play
guys might
hard
even
for
be
a
more
trade.
motivated, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
it's
you're not really
something to
saving
play
for
for.
anything, right?
Yeah,
It's even more meaningful potentially winning that tournament than, you know, finishing 11th in the Eastern Conference or whatever.
no, that's true. Maybe we'll see that. Like I said, I don't know. We just know how seriously they treat the All-Star game and that break, and how seriously the players treat the break, as far as it being a time for them to really regroup, spend time with family, get healthy, kind of get over the little nagging things that have been, injury wise, that they've been dealing with. I just don't know how many are going to be like, yes, let me really get going for this round robin tournament that has basically no stakes because it's never really existed before. This is not the Olympics or something like that, where the eyes of the world will be on me and I really want to go out there and do this for my country. This is just an NHL event, right? Like, the biggest incentive for you to play hard in it is just so that ratings are good, and then that shows up the next time, revenue sharing happens, right? Like, that's at the end of the day, I guess, like, the biggest incentive you could find in it for them. I just don't know that we're going to see too much from them.
I think there might be an element of truth in what you're saying, but I think that all goes out the window when USA and Canada are on that same ice together. I think for
Yeah,
that
maybe.
matchup, they're going to go
I
for
will say
it.
this.
This is already probably bleeding into the Red Glare podcast for
I know, I
tomorrow.
know. I was going to say, well, I know, like, Chuck asked a question that I think is going to mostly be answered tomorrow on the Red Glare, but I will say this: watching the commercials for it, right? Especially the ones that they were showing in Canada during the World Juniors, because they had some different commercials. But watching any of the commercials for this, if you watch a game on ESPN, one of the nationally televised games, or TNT, or any of those, I will say the players doing the media for this tournament don't exactly seem like they're all that excited for it.
Yeah, you're not
Asterisk,
wrong much for
asterisk.
media.
I don't know that they ever look excited when they're in a commercial for anything, but that is
These
what
are
I would say.
NHL players, so you kind of have to grade on a curve there.
Nathan McKinnon in any commercial is not going to exactly, look like he's really giving it his all.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. As I scroll down in chat here again, love everybody wishing Thomas well there.
Yeah.
I just love the messages from everybody. Let's see. Ricky Kraken 0 for 7 on back-to-backs, worst record in the league. I'm guessing you mean the second half of back-to-backs. I know they've won like the first half on some of those, but yeah, that's not good. I mean, I guess would that make the Ducks game the scheduled loss?
Maybe. I mean, right now, I feel like that's a bit of a coin flip game. With the Kraken having to travel back from Edmonton overnight and then get ready to go and play that next day at home. I mean, I do think the Kraken are a better team than Anaheim, although, we'll see with like Chandler Stevenson's injury and all of this stuff. Sure seems like everything's against the Kraken right now. But I got to imagine that the travel scenario and the playing the previous night in Edmonton probably kind of takes away any sort of home ice advantage the Kraken would otherwise have in that one.
Yeah, it's going to be tougher than usual, I think, for that matchup against the Ducks. And
Sleeping in your own bed kind of goes out the window when you actually have to sleep on the plane back from Alberta.
Yeah, exactly. That is a tough back-to-back. Edmonton down to Seattle, and then you play the Ducks the next day. That is a rough one. So we'll keep that in mind as they face Anaheim. It's going to be tougher.
Yeah.
And then Chuck asking, what are the big differences driving the Caps improvement? Thompson and other additions, or do you guys see that they've made other changes? The turnaround of their goal differential is huge, and I know we'll do a deeper dive on this as part of the Red Glare podcast. I know I've been wanting to talk about them and kind of everything we've been thinking, and I told everybody that you were kind of trying to figure out the Capital system in the offensive zone throughout this one. So, I mean, maybe you can give everyone a teaser, for the Red Glare podcast tomorrow, and just in short, something to let them in on what you found. But I know you were looking at that.
Yeah, I was kind of really thinking that I was going to notice something watching them in this one, right? And it was going to be a good opportunity for me to really see what systems are they running, how do they look, what's the plan here, why is it that they have gone off on this tear that they're going off on this season. And the bottom line was I'm gonna dig into it more for the Red Glare tomorrow, because I could not tell you what system they're running in the offensive zone. Looked like to me, RJ, they were just exceptionally good at picking their head up, seeing what play was available to them, and then just making the play, which, can happen from time to time. But to see it done as consistently as it was tonight by the Capitals really impressed me. And it really made me think, like, okay, this is why they're winning games. This is why all the people in the analytics community are saying, like, there's underlying numbers here. I talked about it earlier, how they go to the net front for those rebound opportunities, how that's just built in. Whatever player is going to be closest to the net, if he sees anybody gearing up to take a shot, just going to jump towards the net, try to be there for that opportunity, wait for that rebound, stick on the ice, right? So much of what they did today was just kind of fundamentals stuff, but it really shows how powerful those fundamentals could be. And I think one of the plays that kind of actually highlights this the best is the very first play of the game. Right after the Kraken win the faceoff, the opening faceoff of the game, goes back into the Kraken zone. Kraken go to clear it from kind of behind their own net and around the boards. And I believe it was Tom Wilson who was in the corner. And he just kind of knew, okay, player behind the net, he's going to try to clear it around the boards. Let me just kind of go into the corner here. And then Kraken player goes and makes the play, throws it up high kind of along the glass to try to rim it around and get it out of the zone. And Tom Wilson just times it perfectly, and he jumps like a foot and a half off the ground to get his shoulder on the puck so that it falls in front of him. And then he immediately, in one motion as he's landing, takes his stick and throws that puck perfectly right in front of Joey Daccord. And guess what? There was a Washington Capitals player there. And the defense for the Kraken had zero idea what was going on there, which is its own potential issue. But the bottom line was, I haven't seen a team really execute something like that, certainly not that fast off a draw, in a really long time. And it just goes to show their head is just kind of always in it. And I think we saw that a lot tonight, was at least in the offensive zone, they just knew exactly what they needed to be doing. And everybody has bought in to what Carberry is doing there as head coach and what the system they need to be trying in the offensive zone is. Alex Ovechkin moving around a lot in the offensive zone, seeing space, going to space. But it wasn't just seeing space and going to space. It was going to the spaces that their system wants somebody in, right? He played a lot of time in the slot. I don't think of Alex Ovechkin as a player who's going to be playing in the high slot and trying to, body out somebody for position there. And yet, as I was taking pictures of him from the press bridge, that's what he was doing a lot. And I was like, okay, there's like some serious movement here, and it's very much like a player cycle between the net front, high slot, and then a player off on the half boards who's going to operate with the time and space to try to find either the net front player or the player in the slot. And I went, okay, that is interesting. But a lot of it was, with the breakaway opportunities, with some of those other forechecking plays and the plays that would develop off of it, it was just the Capitals just being a really smart and efficient team. And I just think that we maybe just don't always see that in the NHL the way we probably should. And it was honestly pretty refreshing for the X's and O's coaching side of my brain to see that. I was like, wow, it is possible for NHL players to just kind of like do the basic fundamentals and have it like work out for them.
Yeah, so big credit to Spencer Carberry in your book, you're saying.
Yeah, honestly, seriously, I had doubts about him last year, and that Washington Capitals team and their ridiculous, goal differential and then making the playoffs just to kind of get bounced. But what they're doing this year, it really looks like he used the offseason wisely and got everybody to a man to kind of buy into what they need to do in the offensive zone. Yeah, they were able to attack through transition. Some of their, back checking neutral zone work is not great. Defensive zone, it's fine, right? I don't know that it's all that great, but they've got a good goalie tandem. They can kind of withstand that. And if you're just going to outscore your problems, you can just outscore them
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems to really
in
be
the regular
working.
season anyway.
Yeah, we'll see how this translates to playoff hockey. I'm really interested to see it. And yeah, Sean is impressed by this as well. I do want to get your take on this because, I mean, Jenna said tonight, Monty talked about the Caps buying into the coaches' systems right away, as if we didn't. And then Light says, I keep seeing a lot of discourse about the team not buying into Dan and his stuff, which confuses me, given we're a team that gets better as games go along. I feel like that would imply whatever happens between the periods from the coaches works. I mean, what's your take on all that as it pertains to Dan and kind of now that we've had, more of a sample and everything, like, whether guys are buying in or not?
I think it goes back to some of the discussions that we had earlier this season and that we had at the tail end of last season under, Coach Dave Haxtell and his staff with this player group, which is I don't know that they buy in, not because they're not necessarily buying into Dan or that there's some sort of rebellion there or anything. I just don't know that this group totally buys into anybody. I just don't know that it's completely their style. We still haven't seen them really play the way that we know Dan wants them to be playing this year, right? As far as being that 200-foot team, there's flashes of it, but we've never seen it done very consistently. We know that there's been times during this season where Dan has gone to them during intermissions, and you can tell he's trying to establish changes and make those adjustments period by period, and the results of that have been mixed. I can't imagine it's because, he's explaining it good some nights and poorly other nights, right? I just feel like there is still an issue with this team, as we have talked about before, where they struggle to be consistent, and that includes playing within a system. They really struggle consistently doing the different things that they need to do. I feel like for too many of these guys, they'll just kind of default to their original style of playing, their personal style of playing, and that in the NHL is enough for you to be in the position they're in standings wise.
Yeah, I'm with you. And as Sean says, it's a composition issue. Like it is a composition issue, I believe, not a coaching issue. And then Striatic earlier talked about the Kakko trade and Will Borgen. It's interesting that Rangers fans are really loving Will Borgen and calling the Kakko trade the trade that turned the season around. And I feel like there's so much Red Glare podcast material that we're kind of getting into a little bit. But the Rangers are on a bit of a run recently. I don't know if you've kind of checked them in the standings of where they are, but like they are looking better. They're 7-0-3 in their last 10. They have turned things around a little bit, and that trade possibly looking like a little bit of a win-win right now.
I mean, it certainly went on the Kraken side. Look,
easily, yeah.
Look at the roster for the New York Rangers. Okay, you're going to tell me that roster was going to really be that bad?
They were just missing Will Borgen.
I would be shocked if they were just missing Will Borgen. And I do remember when they first got him. At least in his first, I believe, 3 games, his metrics were atrocious, and there was lots of talk of what a disaster he was, and Rangers fans did not want him in the lineup. I guess I'd have to go back and see like what they've been recently here, how much of it has been Will Borgen fed, we'll say. The bottom line is, I mean, I don't know any team that's their season gets turned around by adding a third pairing defenseman, because I'm assuming that's still what he's doing for them. If that's what it takes to turn your team around, guess what? You probably have larger like kind of issues as far as drama, and that would check out with this Rangers group for sure. There's been plenty of drama there, but I don't know, like how many minutes a night is he really playing?
You know 1834.
All right, that's a decent
compared
amount,
to 15-12 with the Kraken. Like he's playing a decent amount.
Right.
I don't think you've properly factored in vibes here, Dylan. I know Brooke here in chat would agree with me.
Yeah, no, Brooke would definitely agree with you there. I have not maybe factored that in. Again, that Rangers team was never going to be that bad. Like they were going to have this natural regression once they got past the drama, and once that team was going to rally to be, against their front office or bought into their front office or whatever. Once the drama was going to get settled, this team was always going to be better than they were playing. They were never going to be a team that was going to pick top 6 in the draft. Like, come on.
Also, vibes aside, as Ricky is pointing out, Borgen did replace Jacob Trouba. It seems like a lot of that ice time.
All right, yeah.
As much as you maybe are not the biggest fan of Will Borgen, I think you'd admit he's an upgrade over
yes,
Trouba.
that is a definite upgrade there for them, for sure.
Sean, the Rangers do not have a composition problem. Exactly.
Yes.
No, they are a much better team on paper, and they're finally starting to play like it. And just happy for Will Borgen that he's in a better. Things have gotten better in his situation here.
Yeah. Can I talk vibes for a second? Because we did have a fun moment with Joey Daccord at the end. Obviously, you talked about it being his 100th game and kind of how important it was. And he really just said that, it's really special and definitely don't take it for granted. Just really grateful that the Kraken have given me this opportunity, blah, 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 all the basic stuff. But then he talked about facing off against Alex Ovechkin. And he did not necessarily say what Ovechkin maybe said to him in that.
He didn't say. I was curious about that.
He did not talk about that, but he said it was really cool just having the opportunity to, go up against somebody who's, most likely going to break that record and to play against the world's best, like Alex Ovechkin. And then he talked about it was really special for him, and he was reflecting, talking about playing Xbox with his buddy Jack in the room back in the day, playing RJ NHL 08. A time for NHL games you and I are very familiar with.
Let's go.
And them fighting over playing as Ovechkin and trying to score goals and stuff with him, and kind of how surreal it is to then be going up against him and trying to keep him from scoring against you, and kind of how different that is. But I thought that was a fun one. I guess I technically can't relate, as I was a 2K8 kid, but still good moments there from Joey. And it's definitely something that the way he phrased it all and everything, I got to imagine that is very different from playing as somebody on Xbox as a child, and then you come out here and you got to go up against him as he's really hungry to go after an achievement that nobody really thought was going to happen for anybody. That's got to be a really cool moment for Joey, on top of the whole 100th game thing. Like I said, he seemed more excited to talk about facing Ovechkin than to talk about the 100th game, which I understand.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's understandable. I think that's a cooler part of it. That's just awesome. I love that quote from Joey. And I mean, I think that could take a lot of us back that were hockey fans at that time and playing the video games. Yes, NHL 2K8 was superior to NHL 08. Hope they bring the 2K games back at some point. What 08 was that? Eric Stahl on the cover, I think. Yeah, I think it was.
Because that was a year before Dion Phaneuf, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, you're right. Yep. So that would have been Eric Stahl.
And I know on 2K8 would have been Jason Spezza, I believe.
Yes, it was Jason Spezza. Yeah. That I remember very
well. I was
going
to say, I can go through the line of the 2K games. I could name everybody who was on the cover.
Well, Ovechkin was on 2K10, right?
Yes, he was on 2K10, which is probably.
So I bet Joey played that one too. Well, actually, I don't know if he played 2K, but
it seems
we gotta ask him. We gotta ask him. He'd be happy to talk about that. Okay.
we'll have to talk to him about that at some point.
Yeah, and as Sean pointing out, Grade 8 has not scored one on Joey. Yeah, this is his third game against Joey Daccord. Still does not have a goal, so Joey's had his number.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Kind of got the best of both worlds, right? Got to see an Ovechkin goal, which maybe not all Kraken fans wanted to see, but you know what? I'm grateful to have been in the building to see one of the goals as he's on track to do what he's doing here. I do think this, as a hockey fan, I can kind of put that above any more personal rooting interest, but it was neat to be able to see him get a goal, RJ, but also not have it come at the expense of Joey Daccord.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of Kraken fans were able to kind of put that aside and just enjoy the moment. I told people I love the PA announcement from Chet Buchanan. Instead, usually they'll say however many goal of the season, but says the 875th goal of his NHL career. I thought that was really cool. So I think we're all just kind of able to enjoy that moment as hockey fans. And really, best result, it was inconsequential to the result of the game. The Kraken were not going to win that game if that goal wasn't scored. So, and everyone kind of knew it at the time. So really a best case.
Yep, definitely.
Bryce, NHL 09 is my nostalgia hockey. I put hundreds into that franchise mode. Oh yeah, I've spent so many hours on NHL franchise modes. I Know that feeling.
We definitely know the feeling.
Yeah. And then Light also, RJ, I don't know if you saw me say, no, I missed it. But Lomo has 9 points in his last 6. He's been hot as the sun. Only Newman has been comparable among the rookies. And yeah, Light had suggested earlier, maybe Logan Morrison is a call up if they do need a center with Chandler Stevenson being out. I still wouldn't go like Myers, Morrison. You probably move McCann. But I know someone had said that they had seen enough of Stevens and was looking for an alternative.
Yeah, I think one of the things that there's a couple thoughts that I have. One, if he's really on a tear right now with the Firebirds, I don't know. Like maybe you want to reward that, maybe you want to keep him with the Firebirds. So like that's a call that you have to make there. I don't believe he's waivers exempt, so you'd have to be okay. Like once you have to send him back
Oh, is he
down.
not?
That's what I'm wondering because he's been around for a while now.
Get it up.
He's getting a little older. I don't know. So that would be a potential thing that would factor into the equation for me. I like the idea of bringing him up and having him be.
Yeah, he's waivers exempt. He's fine.
Oh, okay. Then I do like the idea of him being up and being maybe your healthy scratch forward because he can kind of play all 3 forward roles if you need him to. I think you work Ty Cartier back into the lineup. First and foremost, you have Jared McCann playing as one of those centers. I think Mitchell Stevens has been pretty serviceable as your 4th line center with Yanni Gourde out, so I don't know that I would necessarily go Lomo over him just because I feel like right now you finally have a 4th line that's doing 4th line things and they're actually able to go out there and against Alex Ovechkin in the first period tonight, right? They had that shift. Ovechkin never was able to leave the defensive zone against Mitchell Stevens, John Hayden, and Brandon Tanev. So I feel like I'd probably leave that alone because I don't know that Logan Morrison is going to give you that kind of same consistent pressure. He's gonna be more dangerous offensively, but I don't know that you really need your 4th line to be dangerous offensively right now, so much as you just need them to be winning possession battles. And I think Mitchell Stevens has done a serviceable job of that.
Yeah, that's pretty much kind of what I said. I was in agreement that I just thought that 4th line, it's not broken, so don't fix it, as Chandler Stevenson was said about not the 4th line, but just how the team's playing. Light
there at the bottom. I can tell you what Dylan's gonna say. Look, Light. I will say. Oh yeah, no, I didn't even get into
there
that.
There it is.
Okay, yes, you're right. That is all true as well. With Yanni Newman, I will say this: I've been putting together the prospect chat video, looking at players from World Junior Championship, and I have 2 warnings for Light in the video. I just put up like a screen of like this would maybe be an okay time if Light needs to step away before I talk about Berkeley Cat and Fibger. So know that those are coming, Light, and maybe start preparing yourself now, a week out.
Okay, that is great. I love your back and forth with all the prospect interested people. This is great. They all know you so well. You know them so well.
Yeah.
It makes the prospect chats really fun. So we'll kind of do a last call in chat here as we approach the hour mark on this game. I mean, anything else to add from this one, Dylan, from your perspective?
No, I mean, it's one where, like I said, it feels like one of those games that's just we've seen all too often this season, right? It felt very much like what Oliver Bjorkstrand said, right? Joey did his job and we've got to score. And it just felt like one of those. I feel like they were able to get some of their chances. It just felt like guys really kind of weren't on the same page in this one. This was the first game. It feels like that the Matty Benier line wasn't maybe all the way in sync with each other. They had some good opportunities, but there was a couple times they went for like some moving screen plays or maybe a moving tip play, and it just really didn't end up clicking for them. I still like that they were trying it. I still thought they did a good job of generally playing in the offensive zone and all of that kind of stuff, but it just felt like they were a little bit off tonight. Nothing that I would say like break up the line and let's try a refresh, but it felt like they were off tonight, and it very much felt like the Shane Wright line prior to the Chandler Stevenson injury was off tonight. There was many times where it looked like those guys were going to make plays, especially Shane Wright and Ellie Tolvanen, and they were just not in sync at all with each other. So maybe that's a line that with Jared McCann having to leave and play center, or at least in our opinion, that's what's going to happen. Adding a new line mate there, or maybe you move Tolvanen and keep him and put him on Jared McCann's wing. on that second line and give Shane a couple new wingers. I don't know what you do there, but I thought that line really struggled in the offensive zone in this one. I didn't think they did a great job possession-wise, kind of pushing possession a lot. And once they were in the offensive zone, it just looked like nobody was on the same page with each other.
Yeah, I think it does give you an excuse to change some things up if you want to do that, if Stevenson is out. So looking ahead real quick, Pittsburgh, 1 p.m. game, Saturday on Kids Day, matinee game. What's the one key to beating Pittsburgh? Because I don't think Tristan Jarry is starting for them, so it's got to be something else.
I still think it's one where if you can come out aggressive and really kind of pressure Pittsburgh, like you should be able to win the bottom six battle, right? Even though you now have this Chandler Stevenson injury potentially and what that's going to mean for your lineup, I still think that you could potentially come out and win that bottom six matchup. I don't think their defense is really that great either. I think it's one where if you can, kind of go for those moving screen plays or go for those moving tip plays, you might be able to make something happen there. But also, I'd steal a little bit of what the Capitals did tonight. Throw pucks on net from the perimeter and then just go there for rebounds, because I guarantee you whatever goal he's going to start for Pittsburgh, he's going to give up rebounds. And I can also guarantee, outside of Chris Letang, I think every other defenseman on that Pittsburgh Penguins team is not going to be the first person to that rebound. So you should have that opportunity. If you're there, you should be able to make something happen with it. So I'd like to see that from the Kraken.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I was going to go with just the shooting mentality, throw pucks on net, be opportunistic. They still won the last game against Pittsburgh, but they really didn't put enough shots on net. They needed to test Jarry a little more, especially with how he was playing. And I don't think the Penguins have a real big goaltending upgrade anyway. I know Nedeljkovic can score, but as far as, stopping shots, if he's the guy, right, he's still very beatable. Penguins have lost 9 out of their last 12 games. Got to put the pressure on them, like they are a beatable team. So, and just also start on time. I know the matinee game might mess with their timing, but you got to have a good start.
Yeah, you do. And I would also maybe try collapsing in the defensive zone a little bit. Penguins really want to make like cross zone passes work. That's really what, Crosby's looking for every time he's out there, especially this year with Rickard Rakell on his wing. He's really looking to make those passes to the interior for his line mates. Malkin is looking to make those passes or really to get those opportunities for himself in the interior, in the slot. If you could take away some of that stuff, maybe they'll just try to feed Erik Karlsson from the point. And, he hasn't looked great this year when he's had to kind of manage things from back there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good read, especially on Erik Karlsson this year. So with that, we'll kind of wrap this up, but I want to thank our wonderful sponsor, Queen Anne Beer Hall, one more time. Dylan, in previous games, I had talked about how fun it must have been to see the goal light going off at Queen Anne Beer Hall as the Kraken put up 6 and 4 goals before that. Didn't get any use tonight, so I just went with, I could really go for a chopped cheese right now. I'm feeling hungry. I didn't eat anything at intermission, so that just sounds awesome. To me
how
late
do they open? Maybe we stop all the way home or something there.
They're definitely still open, right?
They're probably still open. I don't know.
I'm driving back. You don't have a choice, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say. And look, the other thing would be, Saturday game again coming up. 1:00 start. It's a good place to pregame. Good place to hopefully celebrate after the fact, with it being walking distance from CPA. The public transit's going to stay running, later because it's a midday game. You don't have to worry about maybe trying to catch the monorail out before it closes down, like with these evening games. I like those for Queen Anne Beer Hall, those matinee ones.
Yeah, that would be the time to do it, certainly. While it's still got a little bit of light out, walk over to Queen Anne Beer Hall, take the monorail and the light rail back home. It's a good way to travel. And your game ticket functions as your public transit pass as well. So that's really cool thing that the Kraken do. And so, yeah, we'll see you all again here in the afternoon after the game against the Pittsburgh Penguins.